Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into a topic that I know, might sound a little dry, management accounting. But trust me, forget dusty ledgers and boring spreadsheets. This is actually one of the most powerful toolkits in all of business. We're talking about the secret compass that guides a company's every single decision. I mean, have you ever really thought about it? How does a huge company decide to launch a brand new product, or shut down an entire factory, or even just change its prices? It's not a coin toss, and it's not just a gut feeling. There is a powerful internal logic at play, and today, we're going to decode it. And that internal logic? Well, you guessed it, it's management accounting. At its heart, it's all about creating specialized, internal-only reports that are like a guide for managers. The mission is simple but absolutely critical. Get the right information to the right people at the right time so they can make smart choices about the future. It is literally the company's internal compass. So you might be thinking, okay, but how is this different from the accounting I already know about? Well, think of it like driving a car. Financial accounting, that's looking in the rearview mirror. It tells outsiders, like investors or the government, where the company has been. But management accounting, that's looking out the front windshield. It's for the internal team, the people actually driving, to help them see the road ahead and navigate what's coming next. All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to unpack this amazing toolkit, and it's got 4 key parts. First, we'll draw the map using budgets. Then, we're going to pop the hood and understand the engine with costing. After that, we'll grab the wheel and steer the ship by making smarter decisions. And finally, we'll check the gauges to make sure we're measuring what matters. First things first, planning. I mean, you wouldn't start a cross-country road trip without a map, right? It'd be chaos. Well, in business, that essential map is the budget. It is the financial roadmap for the company's entire journey. And let's be really clear, this is so much more than just putting limits on spending. Budgetary control is the actual system that brings that map to life. It forces every department to coordinate, to talk to each other, and it makes it crystal clear who is responsible for what piece of the plan. It gets everyone on the same page, heading in the same direction. So why bother with all this? Well, the reasons are pretty powerful. A good budget forces you to plan ahead. It coordinates all the moving parts of the business. It communicates the company's goals to everybody. It can be a huge motivator for teams. It helps control spending. And at the end of the day, it's the yardstick you use to measure how well you actually did. Now, of course, not all business journeys are a straight line on an empty highway. If you're in a super stable, predictable industry, a fixed budget might work just fine. It's kind of a set-it-and-forget-it plan. But for almost every business today, where things change in a heartbeat, a flexible budget is the real game changer. Think of it like a GPS for your finances that reroutes your plan based on real-time business traffic. It adjusts based on how much you actually sell. Okay, maps in hand. But a map doesn't do you much good if you don't understand the engine that's actually going to get you there. So for our second tool, we're going to pop the hood and get into the power of costing. Now, this term, marginal costing, might sound a bit technical, but the idea is actually incredibly simple and so powerful. It asks one simple question: what does it really cost to produce just one more item? And to answer that, it splits all your costs into 2 buckets: variable costs, like raw materials that go up with each item you make, and fixed costs, like your rent, that stay the same no matter what. That simple split suddenly makes your profitability crystal clear. And once you have that clear picture, you unlock this incredible tool called Cost Volume Profit Analysis, or CVP for short. This is the secret decoder ring for understanding the relationship between how much stuff you sell, what it costs you, and how much profit you ultimately make. It's how you find your all-important break-even point. Let's make this real. Look at this example. We sell a product for $20. The variable cost, the materials, the direct labor, is $12. That leaves us with $8. Now, this is the key. That $8 is not profit yet. We call it contribution. Think of it as the money each sale contributes to paying off our big fixed costs, like rent, which here are $400. Once we sell 50 units, that $400 is all paid off, and every $8 after that, that's pure profit. All right, this is my favorite part. This is where it all comes together. We've got our map, we understand our engine. Now it's time to actually get behind the wheel, steer the ship, and make those tough strategic choices we talked about at the very beginning. And great managers don't just guess, they follow a process. First, they define the problem. Then they analyze the financial impact of each option, focusing only on the costs and revenues that actually change between the choices. But then, and this is so important, they consider the qualitative factors. Things like brand reputation or team morale, stuff that you can't put on a spreadsheet, but that can absolutely make or break a decision. So, what kind of decisions are we talking about here? Well, here's a classic. Should we make this component ourselves, or should we just buy it from a supplier? Using those costing tools we just talked about, a manager can figure out the true cost of each option and make a really smart data-driven choice. Or how about this one? Imagine you make plain wooden tables. Should you sell them as they are, or should you spend extra money to sand and stain them so you can sell them for a higher price? Management accounting helps you figure out if that extra revenue is actually worth the extra cost and effort. And maybe the biggest decision of all, what's in our product line? The data might show that a product everyone thinks is a winner is actually a huge drain on resources. Management accounting gives managers the confidence to add a new product, or sometimes, even more importantly, to make the tough call to get rid of one. And that brings us to our fourth and final tool. Okay, so the trip is underway, the engine's running great, but how do we know if we're still on track? Well, you got to check the gauges on the dashboard, right? This is all about measuring performance and creating accountability. The framework for this is called responsibility accounting, and it's based on a beautifully simple idea. You can't hold people accountable for things they have no control over. So what this system does is assign very specific responsibilities to specific managers, and then it measures their performance against the plan, our budget, that we made right at the start. So in practice, the business gets broken down into these different responsibility centers. For example, the factory floor manager, their main job is to keep expenses in check, so they run a cost center. The head of the sales team, their focus is bringing in money, so they run a revenue center. And someone like a store manager who has to worry about both sales and expenses, they run a profit center. This structure just makes sure everyone knows exactly what they're aiming for. So there you have it. As you can see, management accounting isn't just one thing. It's a completely integrated system. It takes you on the entire journey, from creating the plan with your budgets, to understanding your costs, making those big strategic decisions, and finally, to measuring your performance all along the way. It truly is the essential internal compass for any successful business. So I'll leave you with one final question to chew on. Now that you have this powerful toolkit, if you were the manager, what's the very